Good morning, fourth grade. Today you are doing 16-1 in math, and it is all about geometry. Just like last week, this week we're learning a little bit more about lines. And just like last week, we're going to start the week with some vocab terms. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and let me show you today's worksheet. I know the photocopies weren't great. I apologize for that in advance. I went ahead and drew in the lines as they should be. So if you want to go ahead and take a moment and draw in your lines on your worksheet, you can. So just like last week, we're going to start this week with, like I said, vocab terms. And these are things that should be a review for you because they are things that we have gone over during math meeting while we were still in school. So the first term is parallel lines. Parallel lines run right next to each other, but they never intersect. We see parallel lines all of the time. We see them as the top and bottom of a book cover. We see them on the sides of shapes like squares and rectangles. So we see parallel lines all the time. Intersecting lines. Intersecting lines pass through the same point. So they are lines that do cross each other. And then there are special kinds of intersecting lines, which are called perpendicular lines. And those are lines that form a right angle. So go ahead and draw in these lines so they can help you remember what you need to know during today's lesson. And then I went ahead and I drew in 1, 2, and 3. The rest of them came out pretty well, but 1, 2, and 3 were hard to see. So if you take a minute, you can go ahead and draw in. Number 1, we see 2 lines that cross with that little magic box. And if you remember, that box means a right angle. And then in number 2, we have 2 lines that cross. And in number 3, we have a line with 3 points. So just like last week, you're going to use those geometric terms. You're going to use the terms from here. And you can also use terms from last week to describe what you see in each of those drawings. And down here again, these were not light at all. They were pretty easy to see. I'll leave it up on the screen for just a minute. In case yours didn't come out as clearly as mine, you can go ahead and fill yours in. You can pause the video if you need to and make sure you have the information you need so you can finish today's lesson. All right, now that you have that, we're going to go ahead and do a few of these problems together, just like the ones you're going to be doing today on your worksheet. All right, so we're going to start with questions that are like 4 through 7 on your worksheet for today. Up here, using a diagram and naming things. Now, we practiced naming geometric shapes and terms last week. We're going to continue doing that this week. So if you remember, when we name a point, because this first one says name 4 points, and a point is a specific location in space, all we do is label it by the letter that is next to that point. So if I'm going to name 4 points, I would name W, X, Y, and Z. Very good. Now we're going to name 4 lines. And remember, when we name 4 lines, when we name a line, we have to use at least 2 letters and the symbol across those 2 letters to tell us what kind of line we are looking at. So looking at these lines, I see that they are all lines. They're not line segments and they're not rays because they have arrows on both sides. So when I name each of these lines, I'm going to go ahead and use 2 letters. So I'm going to name this line right here. So this line is WX, and then the symbol for a line is a straight line with 2 arrows over it. Let's do one more for practice, and you can keep working on those at home. So I'm going to name this one way down here. Y and Z, and a line with an arrow. Very good. Now, just because we chose these 2 lines doesn't mean we don't have any more lines to name. We have this line and this line. Remember, points can be a part of more than one line, so you can reuse those letters if you need to. For example, this one here, we would use W and Y. And this one here, we would use X and Z. Very good. All right, so now let's go to number 5. Name 2 pairs of parallel lines. So if you needed to, kids, you could go back to your vocab sheet or the vocabulary at the top of your page and look at what a parallel line is. That is, parallel lines are lines that never intersect. So I know I can't do this line and that line because they intersect. I need 2 lines that run right next to each other that never touch. So I'm going to choose this line and this line. So I'm going to go W and X with the line symbol and Y, Z with the line symbol. So that's these 2 lines that run parallel. Now let's name these 2 lines that run parallel and never intersect. We have WY and XZ. All right, and then the last thing it asks us to do is to name 2 pairs of perpendicular lines. Now, I don't see any of those magic boxes on here, and I know that perpendicular lines make right angles, but if I look at my definition, I can see something that looks like a perpendicular line. And although it's not there, that looks like it forms a right angle. So I'm going to name one of my pairs of perpendicular lines. I will have WX and YZ. I'm sorry, XZ. Because those are the 2 lines that when they cross, they form a right angle. So you're going to be doing that in 4 through 7. Make sure you're using the correct type of line at the top. In 4 through 7, it looks like you have all lines. So you're just going to have to be pulling out whether or not they're perpendicular, intersecting, or parallel. All right, the other thing that you're going to be doing today, which we did last week, is you're going to be looking at some diagrams, and you're going to be using geometric terms to describe what is shown. So we can use all of the terms that we just learned today, and then we can also use terms from last week. So I'm going to be doing number 7 really quickly, and I see automatically that these 2 lines are parallel. So I'm going to say 2 parallel lines. And then I know that a point is a geometric term, so I'm going to count the number of points. 1, 2, 3, 4, with 4 points. Very good. Okay, so on your worksheet for this week, you don't have points so you can name lines, but we are going to be practicing that during our Zoom lesson today. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at number 8. How would you describe number 8? Which one of these types of lines is it? Are they parallel lines, intersecting lines, or perpendicular lines? Very good. They're perpendicular lines because they form a right angle right there. So we could say 2 perpendicular lines, and how many points are on those lines? Very good. Again, they have with 4 points. Now, number 9, I think they're trying to trick us. How could we describe that? Yep, you're right. It is 1 point. And that's it. There's no lines, there's no shapes. It's just a point in space. All right, kids. So those are all examples of what you're going to be doing this week, today in 16-1. Again, if you have any problems or any questions, you can always reach out to Mrs. Fallon or I or Mrs. Donahue, and we'd love to help you. You guys have a great Monday.